Well, I mean, in terms of sexual challenges, you can look at the physical components and the emotional and relationship issues. The physical components is all around arousal, erections, lubrication, the physical functioning of having sex. And you know what, believe it or not, that's the easy part. There's things to help, and if a couple is motivated, they're going to find a way to, you know, get around the physical challenges. It's the emotional, the relationship issues, being connected as a couple, that's the big issue. And it's all around, to be physical with someone, that's one thing, but to be really in a relationship with someone, there has to be that connection. There has to be that bond that you feel close, the love, the affection. And unfortunately, when a brain injury occurs, a lot of times that connection's lost. And there's almost this sense of guilt or obligation that a partner feels for being with their partner, but that real sense of I want to be with this person because I love them and I want to really, I'm turned on by them and all that may be diminished. And getting around that and reestablishing it. One of I use this model, it's called attraction template, and we talk about what are key elements that your partner must have for these are deal breakers. If they don't have these things, basically you can't have, the relationship won't work. And I actually have my couples actually fill out these, it's called the attraction template, and they fill out, okay, what are the deal breakers they must have, what should they have, and what's nice if, the icing in the cake type of thing. And what's interesting is, I had them do it as if the head injury or brain injury or the disability has not occurred, and they just fill it out. And then I actually sit there and talk to them. Well, you said being, having a sense of humor and all that, and your partner now doesn't have that. How does that make you feel? And it's a deal breaker. How can you be in a relationship with them? And they go, wait a minute, it's actually not a deal breaker. These things are more important. And they start to reestablish what's important and what's not in the relationship. And that actually allows them to say, these are the important things, and all that resentment and all that they're feeling, the sense of loss, they're making sometimes mountains out of molehills, and they're forgetting the more important things about the true reason why they're with this person. So it's getting them to reestablish, and the challenge is once they've reestablished that relationship, the physical sex is easy. And that's exactly it. I mean, if there's a frontal lobe injury or something like that, there may be a tendency to be hypersexual in terms of talking or not having that filter that you and I might have saying, oh, I shouldn't say that word. I shouldn't say, oh, I like your blank or whatever, right? So we might not have those filters, and that's labeled as hypersexual. Interestingly, in terms of actual initiation and all that, there are times where a brain injury will cause someone to initiate sex, but yet their physical functioning doesn't meet up to their expectations, and a lot of times they blame their partner. In actual fact, it's their thing. But in reality, although there is cases of hypersexuality and disinhibition, there more so, the higher proportion is the avoidance, the decreased sexuality, the feeling like I can't do it, I don't have the sex appeal, and that decreased self-confidence, so they actually avoid sex. And that leads to other issues around the relationship and all of that. So even though the hypersexuality and disinhibition is there, it seems to get more airtime. When in reality, there's other issues where we as healthcare professionals don't address. Well, as I said in the presentation, there is significant differences. It seems like women take on the responsibility. They're the ones that actually are the ones that make the relationship work. They're the ones that sort of sacrifice and are willing to give of themselves. I remember some of my women in my study talking about, sex out of fear, because they were the ones with the disability, and they actually forced themselves to have sex, not because they wanted to have sex, but because they felt that that's what their partners or husbands wanted. At the same time, a lot of women said that I initiate sex with their partner with a disability because they wanted to make him feel like a man, make him feel like he's wanted, has the sex appeal and all that, even though they didn't really care whether they're going to have sex or not. And men, typical men, I guess, they tend to take the passive role, and especially when it comes to sex, when they lose their sense of their manhood or feeling like they're the sexual initiator, they almost back off. They're the ones that actually feel really like, what's the word for it? They feel a real sense of loss in terms of who they are as a person. And it's a lot of times up to their partner who actually initiates to make them feel more like a man, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting, and it doesn't matter whether it's the man with the disability or the man whose partner has the disability. In both cases, they take, when it comes to sex, they take the passive role. It's always the women.